show. All right, so what about the occupied territories? Is Israel doing something wrong? Uh, are they, illegally occupying these territories? Well, let's explore this now if we could, okay? To do this, I got to give you a little bit of history. Remember, folks, the 1967 war. The 1967 war came about a couple decades after Israel was finally granted the land officially, okay, their land, even though it's not the full amount of land that biblically they were granted by God, but still they were allowed to be a sovereign nation again. Well, you had Muslim nations surrounding them that didn't like that, didn't think that they should have a right to exist, and attacked them. And Israel consistently defeated them in war. When 1967, there was a six-day war. And among the nations that attacked Israel was Jordan, Egypt, and Syria. Well, there's a little bit of land that Jordan had seized, that Jordan was in first, that was close to Israel, that they used as kind of a launching ground militarily to go into Israel. And this is the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Then in Egypt, Egypt, they had some land in the Gaza Strip area, and they used that to militarily help themselves to be closer to Israel. Syria had some land in what's considered the Golan Heights, and they used that as well. Well, this is where Israel was fighting them, defeated them, and basically pushed Jordan and Egypt and Syria out of these areas. Well, Israel said, look, this is our land, and we're not going to let our enemies come back in here and be our next door neighbors again and start another war with us. We're not going to let that happen. And this is how it's recognized internationally, okay? When you're attacked and you go to war and there's an area of land that's disputed, the victor has that area of land. The problem is that you have a whole bunch of hostile Arab and Muslim nations surrounding Israel that doesn't feel like they have a right to exist. So what they do is they say, number one, Israel needs to get out of those lands. Their people shouldn't even be allowed to live there. And then number two, as soon as that happens, we want all of Israel to go away because we consider the entire area, quote, Palestine. Now, Got Questions, which is a kind of an apologetics ministry site, they did a great piece on this, and they lay it out, I think, in fairly simple terms. Let me just read to you what they say. They say, quote, Israel became a sovereign nation in 1948 when the United Nations officially recognized its existence. Immediately, Israel's neighbors attacked the new nation, known as the Arab-Israeli War of 1948, and Israel defeated the armies of Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. After the fighting ended, the nation of Israel stayed within the borders designated for it by the United Nations in 1948. When 19 years later, in 1967, Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, as well as Iraq, attacked them again, this time with help from other Arab nations. This was known as the Six-Day War. Israel again defeated their attackers. After this conflict, however, Israel seized control of the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza from Egypt, and Golan Heights from Syria. Ever since, Israel's occupation of those territories has been a matter of international debate. Israel gave the Sinai Peninsula back to Egypt in 1979 as part of the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty, but it still retains control of West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights, even though they pulled settlements out of Gaza. Israel has been building settlements in East Jerusalem and the West Bank since 1972. Palestinians in the West Bank have protested loudly, claiming that those lands belong to them. However, Israel was attacked by its neighboring countries at the behest of the Palestinians. There's a universally understood concept that if you attack a nation and you lose, there are consequences. The attacks on Israel in 1948 and 1967, as well as the countless intifadas, the acts of terrorism, the kidnappings, etc., have all been unprovoked. Israel has never been the military aggressor against its neighbors. When a nation seizes territory from the nations that attacks it, the action is normally seen as a justifiable way for that nation to solidify its defense. If any situation, in any situation not involving Israel, there would be universal recognition of the nation's right to control the seized territories. For some reason, when the situation involves Israel, the international community has always been on the side of the Palestinians and Israel's Arab neighbors. Israel suffered an unprovoked attack and occupied those territories in order to better defend itself from future attacks. Biblically speaking, Israel has every right to possess, occupy, and build homes in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, Gaza, and far more. All of those territories are well within the borders of the land that God promised to the nation of Israel. Israel currently possesses just a fraction of the land that the Word of God declares belong to it. See Genesis 15:18 and Joshua 1:4. The Palestinians have no biblical basis for preventing the nation of Israel from occupying and building homes in these territories. There's no adequate explanation for the sheer blindness of the United Nations toward the reality of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict other than satanic deception. And folks, that's what I've talked about many times. There's a spiritual issue at play here, a spiritual hatred for Israel, because we see God's love for Israel. So who are the modern Palestinians then? I mean, is there even such a thing as a, quote, modern Palestinian? Well, hang on. I'm going to talk about that next here on the Bob